Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Trial by Fireside. We are finally back. Sorry for our silent radio on week 3. We just weren't available. At least I specifically was not available. But now we're back. We are back for week 4, which is Gully Wash F9. We have some newcomer coming to your way, and I am Siyo, aka Jay. Joining me is Wild Rumpus. I'll be doing the production and the casting mic alongside my caster here, Wild Rumpus. How are you, my good friend?
I am doing well. Gonna have to hopefully pick up on a lot here to give you a little breathing room with the production and the casting. But yeah, back with some newcomer. Looking forward to this. So we are seeing Feed Theory verse. Now, I guess we can start off with a controversy. Are you gonna pronounce this as monkeys or monks? Because with words like this, where it's just like the es at the end is like a meme or whatever, like I feel like people are pretty split.
I feel
And
like
for me, you go ahead.
I mean, given that we had to change one of the aliases of one of the players because of their name, I would say I'm gonna probably pronounce it as monks. So that's probably where I stand on this.
I kind of trend towards monks as well. I don't know why, but that just feels better to me. Either way, we can run down these rosters. So on the silly monks or monkeys, whatever you prefer, we're looking at scouts with infamy and omelet. Soldiers are Quefty and Jello. Their demo man is Heart, and their medic is Jazza. Then on Feed Theory, they actually gave us the exact roles. So Pocket Scout is going to be Pine, Flank Scout is going to be Bink, Pocket is Cope, Roamer is Zagerfeeg, Demo is Ryatlov, and then their med is Back to School Ads.
Pretty fun names on both sides, and I expect a lot out of you, the wildest of the rumpuses from where the wild things are. And I think
Oh yeah.
that you definitely have a relation to one of these players because we were talking. I grab usually before each match for those who don't know, because it's newcomer and amateur and things can get lost in the mix. I usually put all the team leaders into a group chat alongside my casters, and one of them shouted out Mr. Rumpus. So do you care to
Yes.
explain your
I was
unethical relationship?
recognized by none other than Zagerfeeg, who is actually a well-known Tempest player, a jumper goat, and I had to verify because he's been rising up the ranks kind of a lot, and I knew for sure he'd be like at least top 200 soldier at the very least, but he's actually top 100 soldier and almost the same demo, so definitely up there as far as jumping prowess goes. Now, that's one thing to be like a T6 jumper.
Mhm.
But being able to apply it in a sixes context is a little different. There's going to be some adjustment there, but he's got the mechanics, I suppose. But yeah, that's the only name here that I recognize. But yeah, Zag definitely someone that I will see around in the Tempest servers.
And I did actually get some prior information with the silly monks. These guys actually are both a core in this sixes division, but also in Highlander. So it's
Okay.
very interesting to see, because they play different game modes and they probably played for a season or two together. They probably have some good synergy, but obviously synergy can't back up the lack of experience or know-how on how to play sixes. So if their
hmm
Highlander synergy can translate to a sixes environment, they should be golden, and they should theoretically, even in terms of DM, if they have the coordination, that should make up for that DM. But if they don't have the experience, who knows?
Yeah, I took a quick look down both teams' rosters, and yeah, most of Feed Theory, this is their first season of anything. Whereas on Silly Monks, it was more, they had some Highlander peppered in as well. So, I mean, just being in an environment where you are in a server with other people calming and working together is really one of the bigger hurdles as far as sixes even goes. So getting some of that familiarity in a Highlander context is still beneficial, even though it is ultimately a different format.
Yeah, and I think really the big thing here is that at least with Highlander, some of these players will have a very good know-how on how to play the off classes, specifically the pyro and the engineer when it comes to holding the last points. But Obviously,
Mhm.
we might see some gimmicks, since one of them is a Highlander team. We could see the spy, we could see the sniper more often than not. So I'm very excited
Yeah.
to see what kind of shenanigans these guys will pull out.
And Gully Last in particular is a map that you can really get away with the exception of maybe NG, you can push pretty much any off-class into last, like a pyro behind point through water or sniper spy, obviously, or even a heavy. Like you can make things happen pressuring into another team's last. We'll see if they're on that wave, but you know, sometimes to make plans like that work, you need a pretty fundamental understanding of like why and how and things like that. But maybe they'll go for it and maybe it'll work out. While we're on the goalie topic, definitely a map that prioritizes a lot of projectiles and a lot of mid fights. Mid to lasts are pretty powerful here. Speaking of, we are going to the first mid right now.
Yes, we are. We are live with Silly Monks versus Feed Theory. Feed Theory on red, Silly Monks on blue. Rumpus, I'm gonna let you take away the first.
Ooh, Zag's going for the fast rollout choke, and just a hair too slow. The demo was already able to get pack, and will clean up that very early soldier kill. So now, down a scout as well. They actually trade out the pick, so even numbers for each team. And the positioning, red has all the height. They get another pick on an isolated soldier, and now it's just 3 up for blue. They are still trying to kind of fight, but ultimately are gonna just have to leave. Hopefully they can get out of here because it looks like they're half committed to fighting this still. Could have been very scary if they were just a little more committed.
I think that spells the trouble of losing a soldier very early on in the mid there. As you saw, one of the soldiers on Feed Theory Silly Monks did go down early, and because of that, it kind of just blew away their chances, because losing that soldier is more important on Gully Wash than most other mids, actually.
Ooh, and we see just an exchange through. And actually, it's not an exchange. Blue is building slightly worse. Their med dies at 96%. So extremely heads-up play here from Feed Theory. And it's pretty much a full wipe, yeah. With Quefty going down there, it is a full wipe. And we're not seeing spawns for another second here. So they're going to be able to get bodies on the last point. And yeah, the spawners are just too slow. That's a very confident first round from Feed Theory.
Yeah, one of the weird things, I mean, just your classic textbook case of coast to coast from mid to last there, but it seemed that Silly Monks just didn't have the Uber ready on time for that exchange. And I think in Newcomer, if you've watched any of our earlier games, the even Uber changes are just more prevalent compared to other divisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and Zag is back at it, only this time fast enough. We'll get the trade. So unlike going down the soldier, on the mid they won last time still, despite that early death. Now with the soldier for demo trade, it's going to be much more easy for red to make things happen. And yeah, they have all the positioning. Blue is just stuck in a corner in their own elbow. They are still down that demo and that soldier, and are trying to fight for this space, but Infamy a little bit caught out here, will just opt to leave. And Quefty, last one in, is getting spammed down, but will get chased down by a scout. And now down 2, trying to hold second here.
I feel a bit sad about watching that mid, because I was on the Silly Monk scouts as Infamy does go down towards Big Door. A lot of beat shots, but the Uber is in, but 2 boys are chopped already.
Yeah, this time Blue has Uber, so it won't just be a convincing wipe for red. And actually, red is losing 3 players in the meantime. But yeah, the remaining players are still in. We see Cope and Realov are just in with their med. Still trying to fight this, just take this high ground. And Blue's kind of disorganized at the moment. They have a lot more players alive right now. This is very fightable. And actually, Cope is just completely alone on second. We'll try and just jump out. Actually, just gets out with the stick. Very clutch, and a pick there even on Infamy, just trying to chase into choke. So what was looking like just a horrible situation for Feed Theory ended up just turning out all right. Kind of came out in the wash. They are seeing a sack in. Oh, Zag, yeah, getting a pick onto Jello. Will get traded out, and then Pine in the meantime dies. So a double sack from red. And yeah, no one is watching Big Door, and it looks like Omelet is working their way over there. Yeah, just committing in unspotted. Might be able to get something done here. Is getting in on the med, but there's stickies there, unfortunately. And actually, Hart dies in the meantime. So a 2 kill there from Ryalov, who does end up going down, but we see an exchange.
There's
into 2.
Get caught in. Cope is caught out. Blink. They're trying to force their way and shove through, and it is really the Feed Theory because everybody's feeding, but they still get the medic on Silly Monks.
They do, yeah. And actually, they get the cleanup as well. So there is a player behind in Jello, but yeah, it was very just chaotic exchange. There was a good collapse there from Zag to clean up the med and just help kill the remaining soldiers, but the start of that exchange was definitely bad for Feed Theory, just losing those two players. And it looks like we have a pause right now.
You know, while we're at that pause, we saw a bit earlier that Cope, he kind of got out. He was on plat there on second, and then he just jumps out and walks to mid. And that's really, something that should have been punished even more by Silly Monks. But I think when you're watching these first 5 minutes, you see a lot of indecisiveness, or just not a general idea of what they want to do, or knowing what they can commit to and what they can't commit to. Like you saw, once Cope got out, a scout eventually tried to chase. He died, and then it just all crumbled from there with the exchange, which they had the upper hand at first, but then in the post exchange, a soldier just floods him through choke. I think that was Zagger, and then he just kills everybody.
Yeah, and I think Feed Theory just has really, really aggressive mindset right now, which I think is benefiting them a lot because if even though it's a kind of like single track, single minded kind of idea of just go forward, when you have all 6 of your players on the same page, it's so much better than only half your players with like some type of nuanced plan that's like actually better in theory, and then the other half just like on a different page. So their coordination is definitely good, and a lot of fights that start off really bad, we are seeing Pine actually able to just barely live there after just kind of solo committing into last. Yeah, those plans where those fights where it's going very poorly for Feed Theory ends up going well in the long run, just because like their aggression is coordinated well. We do see actually a sack in from Zag. Will go down, and yeah, I was gonna say it was ad for red, so interesting play for the soldier to go in for like a kind of sack play instead of just take the Uber in. Regardless, it doesn't really matter because that was a very, very convincing round off that Uber.
And Silly Monks, they're down pretty low so far for this game, but they shouldn't have their spirits down just yet. If they go down, thankfully, compared to all the other divisions, amateur and newcomer, they have the 2-half config, but hard is just insanely slow compared to Rautov.
So we are seeing no fast rollout from either soldier, and actually Hart just first to go down. I think Zag goes up, drop down or something. But at this point, like Blue is just not in. It's just Jello on the point, trying to get some type of value. Pine getting a little too aggressive, biting off more than he can chew with the infamy 1v1. Who will just kind of slide away. Actually will get caught in lobby by Zag, who wants a little more, just going for the upward directs on the scout in lobby. They're both just trying to reload, finally finish each other off, but the scout does have heal advantage, but will go down eventually, and Zag is still alive, fighting hard at this point, who's just trying to hit him with pipes, and ultimately Zag ends up surviving all that. It is even Uber, so we're likely looking at, okay, it is a sack. Ooh, and the drop! Wow, just Zag is doing all sorts of things right now. Yeah, Red just knowing that their med drops decides to use in, gets a ton of point pressure, and at this point actually is just up to Ryatlov, who's got the sword out. He got some picks, but will get cleaned up there. Yeah, that's one of those situations where just having a sticky bomb launcher with stickies loaded just gets the dopamine firing. Although that being said, Zagrafik is in water. Maybe got spotted, but no one's looking. Yeah, taking a fight with Omelet on point. Will just try to knock him off point just long enough. Actually goes for the B-hop spoon and gets the crit. And in the meantime, in the front lines, Infamy and Jello are dying. So 3 down on their own last for Silly Monks here. Very, very scary situation to be in. Although, that being said, it looks like, all right, Pine is in, but the remainder of their team is a little too slow to... Pine trades out with the demo.
All the distraction on point.
Well, it's not even a trade yet. He hasn't died yet. And Red is just completely in. And they just cap.
He lived the entire time, and actually, he did more than just living. He brought them all on a point like a shepherd in his herd, and everybody just got corralled into the spam. The meat grinder it is in Feed Theory. Not like they're feeding, it looks like they're winning instead.
Yeah, that was absolutely crazy. Just and that round was pretty much just the efforts of like a couple players who absolutely should have been dead to rights, just living forever. If Silly Monks wants a shot at coming back here, then they're gonna first of all just need to be able to, when a player like that is just essentially feeding, like it's in the name of the team, you just need to take your time and get that shot hit, because there's like very little reason that these players should be living when they are.
And you should take note too that when Pine actually got into point there, for those who were just watching, you saw that everybody from Silly Monks, they'd actually dropped into fight point. That's never the ideal thing you want to do. In a better world where they actually do kill Pine, a soldier jumps on a point. It's usually the level of delegation of responsibility. First, it's your soldiers. If they die, then you commit your scouts or demo or whatever to point. But it should always be your soldiers first that fight point, just because they're more expendable. They can jump on a point, and just the close range of the point is being close quarters makes the rocket launcher really good at denying it. Really. So.
Yeah, on that last, you ideally want, well, if it's like ignoring Ubers, yeah, you want your soldiers in first, and then past that, if it's disad, then like that first line of defense becomes your demo stickies, and then soldiers after your debts or whatever. But and that's just something that you go over in advance with your team. That's obviously not something you can just like know in the moment. You talk about a not criteria, but just a plan to follow in circumstances like that. Get the communication flowing if one guy who's supposed to be doing it can't, and then can tell the guy lower down on the totem pole, like, hey, you have to do this now, and make good team coordination happen. But the last place you as a team want to be is all collected together on a point, especially if the other team has like a soldier or a demo man that's alive.
I do have the logs sent to you. One of the big things that I want to highlight here, as in the chat, guys, you can go click that link to the logs. One of the big things is not just the overall DPM between the projectile classes, meaning the soldiers and the demo men, but it's also the Uber game. So you see on Feed Theory, they have 5 Ubers on back to school ads, aka somebody, whatever their name is in game. And then the medic for Silly Monks, 2 Uber uses versus the 5, and also including a drop at that. That was, I think, the Zagger bomb into last there on like the second round, I believe. And that's really, that really tells you about how well either one, Silly Monks have, or I mean, not Silly Monks, Feed Theory have been doing with building the Uber, but also to, playing along those thin margins and getting really aggressive onto the medic. Like as you said earlier, Rumpus, the name of the game so far has just been playing aggressive and playing off their strengths of the soldiers like Zagger, and it's been working out so far for Feed Theory.
Yeah. There's just so much more damage and kills and Ubers in Feed Theory's side as opposed to Silly Monks, and that's just gonna make a huge difference in the tide of the game. I mean, a lot of it just comes down to team play, and I don't know, just getting the picks that you need to when you need them.
And another thing that I want to point out is all those 3 mid fights were won by Feed Theory. And if you remember, I actually, for those who don't know, I actually just played a match yesterday with Wild Rumpus, and we kind of had the same name of the game too. Well, actually, no, we didn't, because we won mids, but we just never were able to translate it into a round win. But it seems for the Feed Theory guys, they've just been able to ride coast to coast. And I think Gully Wash, more importantly, is one of the most punishing ones, especially if you just don't have a fortifiable last defense set up. And you didn't really see the time for an engineer on the side of Silly Monks, because I just never had the time to set up. Usually it was just a coast-to-coast transition, and Zagger and the rest of the team on Feed Theory, they were just getting in, not giving them time to set up, and that was really the bane of Feed Theory. I mean, Silly Monks.
Yeah, definitely off classes on last, at the very least, with Disad is something to go for. I know I mentioned earlier that a lot of off-classing requires some understanding of the fundamentals of the game,
right,
to make it more effective. And that's certainly the case with like more nuanced off-classing, like going pick classes like a sniper or a spy, or any like I don't want to call them gimmicks, but very map specific, class specific plays like a pyro through water.
Yeah.
But on last with Disad, if you can build a gun,
Oh.
there's really very little reason not to. Likewise with like a heavy or something of the like. Either way, though, both teams have readied up, so we are going into a second half pretty quickly here.
Oh,
So
but I think the
let's see what
demo
goes
on Feed Theory
Zag is
AFK.
going for it again. It actually gets a nice rocket onto the scout, but 30 HP will have to back up. Actually, pretty much leave entirely. Jello going down, though, in the meantime. They trade out for
Right on the
scout
shoulder to the
ultimately.
mid now. Feed Theory we've been playing this
Oh,
entire game without
yeah.
a demo man too.
The
But and
slow
that's why I
demo,
punished
and,
them actually.
Yeah, they lost 3 players, but 2 down for blue, although they have all the positioning. They get the point. And now Bank, trying to live behind, will get caught out. So it's just a demo and a med stuck here on 2. And actually, they are really stuck. They're playing like backside on top of point. This med might be caught, ends up dropping down, just trying to leave through shutter. But there's no one to land on him, and he will make it out alive. But that's 2 just gone in the hands of Silly Monks here.
And
Pretty convincingly.
finally the aggression of Feed Theory gets punished with a good sticky trap from Hart. I believe that was towards at least one of the shutter doors there. And they're going to take lobby, and they're actually might catch out a soldier here.
Oh yeah, Zag is in. Ooh, yeah, will go down. And now down a soldier into last. The
Still
trap
workable.
pick there from Ryatlov is going to make a bit of a difference. We see an exchange through shutter. More flashes from Red, a lot more flashes actually. In the meantime, Blue's losing 2 players.
Oh, but the infamy's
They
a
are-
point! They ignored
Yeah.
point!
Everyone was too prioritized with the post-Uber combo, which admittedly were kind of caught out, but completely ignored the scout that snuck onto point, and that's a round on the board for Silly Monks.
Well, it seemed that fortune is finally turned in their favor, but maybe not on the roulette for Hart there because he hits his head on the wall, so Ryatlov will actually be a lot faster this mid for Feed Theory. I'm looking to see some soldier aggression
Yeah,
again.
Zag is... Okay, so they have adjusted. They've rolled out the scout into their own choke to assist their demo. So Zagerfeek, meeting that, will go down.
Look at how
Actually,
grouped up
bomb in from
Feed
Jello,
Theory is.
quite weak, will trade out with a scout. 3 down for Red, with only a soldier and a scout death on Blue. And actually, a nice pipe.
Oh, I'm like,
from
it's
Hart,
going on the
almost
damage!
kills the med. Ooh, Omelet, yeah, chasing in, is not able to close that out and will go down. So now, ultimately, about even numbers for each team. We're seeing Quefty actually getting a ton of damage just peeking that choke there. Zag is a little aggressive in Big Door, thinking about going for a bomb of some kind.
Oh, and Infamy
Will
might be
meet
winning
a
this
scout,
fight.
and actually this scout kind of wants a pick here.
Nice
And
shot.
yeah, Infamy finds it. So they have a pick to work with going into the other teams too.
I kind of
See
want to...
what they opt for.
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
they're actually
another
gonna
exchange. As has been the case in this match, Quefty actually getting focused down. Ooh, they lose 2 in the exchange, so very terrible for Blue. Looking like a wipe just based on their post-super positioning here. It's just up to Hart behind. It's getting 2v1 by the demo and scout, and actually will have to make the difficult decision to dead on himself.
That was actually a really... I think I actually like the idea from Silly Monk there. They actually flooded with that Uber change to try to send people behind for a post-Uber sandwich, at least it seemed like. As Omelet here will kill a feeder in second, not without a trade there. But it
Yes,
just didn't execute correctly.
We did just see Zagerfeek as well going for trying like fast roll out into the forwards. Will end up trading out. We're only seeing like a couple, actually, the remainder of Blue that are trying to fight 2 right now just don't have heals right now. So Jello gets a pick.
Oh,
Will
if he gets the
probably
second
get
one?
traded out here. The scout does hit the shot, so will be a trade. But yeah, Red just kind of bulldozing into second will get the point. Now we're looking at actually add for Red.
Oh, good trap in the lockers.
Yeah, that was beneficial to Blue. Might slow down Red a little bit. I don't know if this was supposed to be ad. I don't think it was. I think that Blue's just been building a bit worse. And Zag actually just
Actually, the Met
seeing
did die in the
last
post-exchange.
decides, oh, you know what? I think I'm just going to cap the point.
No!
Nice rocket juggle onto the med. Will actually juggle himself, just barely avoiding the cap. But with that med pick, yeah, they're just going to use in and then cap the point.
Yeah, I was gonna say there, like, just to go back to my second point there, like, I got what Silly Monks were trying to do there, but they just didn't win the DM fights, or they just didn't have the good post-super positioning with that exchange in the second. But I liked the general idea and what they were trying to do. So you can see that they have some ideas of how they want to play the sixes. They just haven't fleshed out how to really execute it correctly.
Yeah, alright, this time
Dagger
Zagerfeek
being dropped.
opting to go yeah, up drop down. Does not get spotted. Jello actually going down early means this is, yeah, Zag is in the perfect position. We'll get the med.
Oh, it's a meat
Decent
grinder.
damage on the demo. Actually, more damage on the demo. Just a ton of damage in choke, and hasn't even died yet. Might even kill his scout.
There you
With
go.
17 HP, managed to get that, and it's a full wipe for blue. Everyone on red surviving. This is definitely looking very scary for Silly Monks here.
We need to see what the off costs are. It's just a sniper, but I think
Yeah.
Omelet should probably go Pyro or at least
So it's
Engie here.
really up to Infamy here. They are just scoping in on Shutter. So, and actually, blue is taking lobby positioning here.
Wait, this could be good. Nope.
Ooh, Ryatlov in stairs. Zag actually deep river as well. Yeah, it looks like they're trying to take this Uber. They're walking through lobby now. Potentially a Shutter here. Yep, that's what it's looking like to me. There is a demo close Shutter here.
Oh,
That's a
Pine's just
potential pick
feasting
for
in.
sure.
He
Oh
just
yeah,
wraps around
Pine
when you're
just
at the
walks
roost.
in through main, wrapping around. Early demo pick on this Uber means this is almost certainly going to be a round. It's just a matter of spamming down those players on point, and just like that, very, very fast game.
An easy and fast one at that, and dang, you know, I just realized it looked like Silly Monks, they just had a really hard time of holding those doors, those choke points, and it really came back to bite them there, because I was on Pine, or one of the scouts for Feed Theories, and he just walks through Launchpad, and he just absolutely makes a meal out of that demo. He wrapped into lockers, one shot for 100 onto the soldier, and then he just cleans up Heart there in the Shutter area, and it was just really nice to see. You know, they have the DM on Feed Theory, and they really punished the lack of experience on Silly Monks.
Yeah, there was a lot to talk about, but the game was just moving so quickly. It was, you couldn't really fit a word in. That second to last round where Zagrafy just bombed in onto point while no one was on last, like that was like a round losing error essentially for blue, and it really was like a quite simple one, just coming down to knowing who was supposed to watch what doors and what situations. Obviously TF2, like there's a lot of experience and information you have to build up. It's not really enough to just be like you're supposed to watch this door, because it all depends like on what the situation is, you know. Playing even Ubers or playing a sack or playing a counter sack or playing disat, like these are all different positioning for different people, and it requires a lot of like built up experience.
Yeah, and I actually want to go back to that. So for those who weren't understanding why Zagrafy's like play was really good, one thing like he lives insanely for so long on point, but he also like does so much damage, and once again he brings back all the players and he allows this Uber to not get focused at all. So they're not anticipating the Uber. They're just Silly Monks' first priority is kill Zagrafy on last, because if he casts, then round's over. But because he brought everybody to point, he also did like 100 damage to each player that tried to find him on point. They were all in the low ground, and then his demo man just walks in, kills everybody, Ubers in, just a certified round win. And it's really important, like as you're pushing out, because the only reason that it was a big problem was Zagrafy killed one of the soldiers clearing river. So usually, what you do when you're pushing out is you bring your heals to river, you let your demo hold a lobby as you're pushing out of last, gully watch last that is, and your demo man traps off the baby door Shutter, and he traps off the lobby Shutter, and then you take your combo through river. And if they had actually done that, that probably would have prevented the Zagrafy flank there. There's a lot of protocols that you need to have, or a plan that you need to follow through with, at least, or a general idea when you're pushing out of blast, or just any choke point in general. Specifically Gully Watch, because it's so prone to both backcaps. This is the map of backcaps, per se.
Yeah, and for reasons like that, I think, especially at a newcomer level, a lot of it is like you can't nitpick too much, because so much of it is just built on having games under your belt. And I remember back when I first started playing, I started just by playing like Face It Pugs back when they first launched in probably like 2015 or 16 or so. And I remember there was a turning point where I started to realize, like, wait, I have like a kind of intuitive feeling of what Ubers are. Like I can just sort of feel how long approximately it takes to build, and like I know when it's ad or disad based on what happens. And that was just a feeling I didn't have before. But like the only way I ever got it was just by playing, because I knew like ad and disad existed, and I knew like Uber tracking is something you're supposed to do, but I didn't have an actual intuitive sense for it until I got the actual in-game experience.
I think that's one of the reasons why TF2 has a really hard learning curve, because you can the concepts are pretty basic, or at least they seem pretty straightforward when you read about it, but then once you watch the videos and then you watch higher level invite, you start to wonder slowly by slowly as you go division by division, every second counts and the pace just gets faster and faster, that you realize and you start to get overwhelmed because these guys just know how to perfectly play every situation, and every little micro factor that just changes, or it's just overall like an overwhelming experience as you are starting off your career in TF2. And for those that actually are able to just keep the grind up and able to have the time to commit and review and just have a mentor, which definitely helps a lot, because I can't
Mhm.
really emphasize how much having a different perspective on things, a higher level perspective, changes your view of the game. It's just overall something that newcomer players need to take it into account when they first start off in sixes.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be an intimidating game to get into because there's just a lot to do, and I don't know. It can be hard to know where to start. Either way, though, congratulations to Feed Theory on their win tonight. That puts them at what are they 3-1
Three
now?
and one, yes sir.
All right. How does that stack up versus the rest of newcomer? Um, well, no one else has really reported scores from tonight,
I mean,
but
this one
there
was pretty fast. We
are.
are only 30 minutes after start time, actually. So,
Yeah, that was an extremely fast game. There's 5 3-0 teams right now, and then a lot of 2-1 teams. There's a lot of newcomer teams. That's crazy. But yeah, we're looking like Feed Theory kind of setting themselves apart here in the upper echelon